Awesome. So as Allison said, we are going to be recording this session, and Charlene's going to send you a link to the recording after the webinar is finished. All right, so our agenda for today, I'm going to quickly go over Marquee 360, and then I'm going to pass it to Allison to talk about Agile principles and show you some demos and go through a few tips and plans. And then we can also talk about some other ways of working with Agile methodologies. So a little bit about Marquee 360. A Microsoft partner for project and portfolio management and cloud solutions. And what that means is we work in your Microsoft 365 platform to integrate all of your applications to give you one seamless work management tool. And primarily we work with Planner and the Power Platform. As a company, we really focus on innovation. So we have employees who have worked at Microsoft or have been working with Microsoft since the project server days and have seen every iteration up until now with Planner. So we do work closely with the Microsoft product team to make sure that our solutions are up to date and we're following their roadmap so that our customers are getting the latest innovations and the most out of your Microsoft investment. We also focus on customer success and support. So um, we do work closely with your team more as a partner and get all of your requirements gathering up front to make sure that what we're implementing works for your business requirements. And then we work with you post-implementation with training and support. And a lot of our implementation customers, like 90%, stay with us to continue on support. And our support's super flexible. They can use it for upgrades or training. So we definitely want you to be as successful as possible. And now I'll pass it to Allison for the fun stuff.
Thank you, Erin. And I know I have a habit usually we're like trying to wrap things up sometimes if we run right up to that 1 o'clock time. So I know also at the end of this, Erin or Charlene will be dropping in a survey. So, hearing from you helps us just create, events that are meaningful to you. But today we're focusing on agile ways of working. And I just wanted to just kind of level set because I don't know, unfortunately, I don't know who exactly is in the audience. But certainly agile ways of working, it's not just for developers, right? Today it's a challenge to keep up to speed or, keep up with how fast customers are expecting, for improved value in the solutions we're developing. And when things are siloed, it can, slow us down. And so these agile ways of working, they're meant to embrace today's, shifting priorities and expanding customer needs and figuring out a way to keep them happy as we're still trying to address what we already know and even managing what we don't know. So the principles of Agile to help us kind of manage that, right? It's iterative work. So breaking work into manageable pieces and delivering that value continuously. Transparency is a big element of being on an agile team, right? We want to promote visibility into work and those priorities and those challenges that we're coming up against. And then responsiveness, being able to adapt quickly to the change in the information we have or the receipt of new information. If I do have any folks in the audience that are familiar with these methodologies, I'm just making sure I recognize, these are three. There are others. If anyone is not using a labeled methodology, these are ones you might hear of. We have Scrum, right? And so the way these frameworks kind of meet those, work in the context of or provide a framework in the context of those principles, right? With Scrum, we've got time box for that focus. We have those daily scrums for accountability. Continuous improvement is via those retrospectives. And, the goal of Scrum is to empower cross-functional teams. So we have clear roles and communication. I will be transparent. I shouldn't say working knowledge, but my Agile expertise is in the area of Scrum. Kanban, I'm a little less familiar with, but I know, it's for the visualization of work, and that's supposed to help us reduce bottlenecks. Limiting the amount of work in progress helps us maintain focus. It's supposed to help us improve the flow and, again, foster that team collaboration and transparency. And then lean is another one, right? Get rid of the non-essential work, prioritize customer value, that continuous feedback and learning, empowering teams to make informed decisions. So how in the world might you then be able to use Planner for those agile ways of working? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly highlight the features that are in there, and then I'm going to go off camera, and I have a couple plans crafted in Planner so we can explore some of these. So in Planner, these are the features that probably would lend itself well for you trying to organize, characterize, manage your work if you're working in these agile, one of these agile ways of working. So you're going to see we can organize work into buckets. And when I was trying to put together this demo, there are so many ways that you could do the same thing. So you would really need to figure out for your team, what is the best way to organize this work. And what I have on the right side of the screen, that's not, it's just a suggestion, and it's not the only option. So buckets, really good for example, workflow stages. Tasks, you could use those for, if I do have any people in here that are maybe using Jira, user stories or work items. Labels, so value stream. I personally think using a label to indicate where work is blocked is better than having a separate bucket for blocked work. Checklist, you're going to see in Planner within our task, we can maintain a checklist of items. Could be for subtasks, as long as the person that owns that task is going to be responsible for all the checklist items, or perhaps it's about acceptance criteria. You'll see that when we associate our plans with Microsoft Teams, we then open up that collaboration element where we have the ability to have conversations specific to tasks. We can upload files into our team collective repository and associate attachments with certain tasks. So that's, for knowledge transfer and transparency. What I'm going to show you today is based on using premium plans. In Planner, we have two types, basic and premium. I would say if you're a team that's this would just work for me, and I'm in marketing, you could do a lot of this with basic plans as well, but I'm going to be using premium plans. And something that is unique to premium plans is the ability to define goals and align tasks to those goals, right? So you can align your work to strategic goals, or if you're someone that practices Scrum and you're trying to make sure everything you do aligns to that definition of done, you could use goals to support that. In our premium plans, there is a built-in sprint view. If you were using basic plans, you could create your own way of managing that as well. And then I already mentioned that Teams integration for that collaboration and transparency. I used Jira once quite a while ago in a very elementary way, but in preparing for this and trying to help draw, this was just, it's a tool that I know is used in a lot of our clients, in addition to about that a bit at the end, but just let's just use Jira as an example. So epics, in Planner, you could coordinate those as a portfolio, a plan, or a bucket, and I'll show that. Feature, that too, that could be a plan, a task in a feature bucket, or a task with a feature label. Like I said, you're going to see there are different ways that you could do this all, and it really would, you would need to find out for your team what's going to work best. User stories, you could create buckets for those, or you could have a feature summary task and then story subtasks. And then we have, tasks and bugs and issues. So again, tasks, we can use labels to help us determine, is it just a task? Was it a bug? Is it an issue? And those could be subtasks under, a parent task. So just some concepts. Premium plans can support up to 3 levels, right? So when I just talked about epic story, so that could be supported. And then you're going to see we have different views. So that grid view would showcase the hierarchy. But the board view, if you're someone that wants to work more into like that pulling of work into process, we could use board views and then use different groups and filters. So with that, I'm going to go off camera. And I'm going to end my slideshow. And so the first thing, so right now I am in Planner. I think what's good when you have a team that's going to be working together, though, is to actually first start in teams. Let me see if I have the team. I have all of you. Let me see if I can't pull up the other one. You know what? I'll do it this way. I'm going to go into my Teams app. It's always hard to show Teams when you're in Teams. I'm going to go to my Teams and I'm going to created a Dewey Agile. Here we go. Oops. And I'll get into my channel. All right. So what I recommend when you're working in a team is to come into Microsoft Teams and create your team. And that's going to give you a place to have conversations, create your files, and then have plans. And so you see, I actually have 3 different plans here. So we'll come back to this, but when I talk about the collaboration component, okay? This view, I'm looking right at Planner, not in the context of Teams, and I've created 3 plans. So I'm going to open this one first, Dewey Feature Login Authentication. So what I'm trying to show you here is what I did was I created a plan. If you work in this context, this is representing a feature. And what I did here, let's see. So I mentioned that it is possible to have summary tasks and then subtasks. So in this case, I created a summary task and it's called implement MFA. A different way I can also characterize that is by using labels. So if I open this up, this is our task information panel. I can create labels to be a story, a feature. If we did want to be able to kind of separate things between just a standard task versus something that is perhaps, a bug, right? So that's another way that we can help give some context to the work that we're doing. I mentioned, so this is just a grid view where we're kind of giving some things hierarchy. If I switch to board view, you'll see what I did this way. This is yet another way we could organize this. I could create, so these are buckets. Whenever you create a plan, you always get a default first bucket, and all your tasks as you're adding them, they're going to show up in that first bucket. But you could relabel this, to, I don't know if you'd want it to call it to do or something, but you can. And then you'll see in this case, I've created buckets that represent stories. So that's another way that I could, kind of manage this work. And you'll see that, then I'm just going to pull these into here. And now that I've done that, right, so that's just another way of looking at that. In addition to using buckets, I mentioned that premium plans have a built-in sprint view, right? So all my tasks are immediately in this backlog area. And then as you're doing your sprint planning, you could be like, okay, yeah, we're going to work on this and we're going to work on this. And then at the end of the sprint, you can start your next sprint and put it in that time box. So that's another way of managing the work.
Hey, Allison.
Yes,
Sorry to interrupt. We're getting a few questions.
sure.
Um, so the first question is, can you have a pre-built template to create a plan from that has the labels predefined?
Yes. So the way that, so when you come into, this is pinned. Okay, good. When you come into Planner and you elect to create a new plan, let me get there for you. First of all, you will have several Microsoft created templates. And some of them, I don't know what role you're in, but if you happen to be in, like, let's say software development, you'll see they actually have some sprint based plans made. But if you want to create your own template, we actually don't create something that ends up in that pick list, but you can create your plan. And then once you go into it, if you have your buckets the way you like, you have your labels the way you like, you can go in and then copy the plan. So you would label this maybe like feature login and authentication template, and every time you're doing that type of project, you would then just go ahead and say copy plan, and then you get everything. Okay. I see. So Mark, hopefully maybe give me a thumbs up if that makes sense to you. And then Kathy, you said, is bucket one the backlog? So again, it could be. There are so many different ways that you could set this up. I think probably the better illustration is my other feature. Let's do this. I think this one, profile management. So if I recall what I did in this case, I just was using this to define all my tasks. I was using a label to help me realize what tasks are associated with which stories. I then, for my buckets, let me go to buckets. For my buckets, I was doing more like, I think this is kind of like, I think there is something actually where it's called Scrum with Kanban. And I, have my work in progress, and I could certainly, manage the flow of the work like this. And then I think what I would do in that case, Kathy, is I would then use the sprint planning to see that complete backlog list. But that's just an option. Could I have created a bucket called the backlog, use that bucket one for that? Absolutely. And then I see someone is asking, can you link task dependencies? And you absolutely can. So if I couldn't implement this profile before these having these rules, when we're working with premium plans, let's just take a look at all the things we can do. So obviously we can give it a start date and a finish date. Obviously we can assign it to people. We can track how far have we gotten as far as completion. If you want to break that down into hours, you can. Before we were doing a lot in the way of just dragging and dropping, but I can also change that from in here. And then you'll see that I can manage dependencies. And when we do that, we have all sorts of choices. And when we're using, this is in premium plans, if we have, depending on our licensing level, we can also then add lag and lead times. So I'll go ahead and just add that. Okay, so then that gives us yet another way of looking at our work, right? Because then I can go into this timeline view and see it that way. So hopefully that answers that question. Is there a way to have an overall view of all plans? Perfect. So So right now you saw that I had created these plans where I had a plan for each feature. And then what I did was when you are using premium plans, you can use this feature called a portfolio. So what I did was I said, you know what, I'm going to create a portfolio and I'll give it that epic descriptor. And what you can do is then bring in all the plans that are related. So whether it's a portfolio of projects, or if you like to use these terms, you have epic and features, we can do that. And then I can see, how are these all moving as a collective unit? I could say, how things are going. And then there's also roadmap features. Now, I didn't put a lot of data in here, so you're not gonna see much, but then this would also, as far as seeing timeline, we would be able to see that. So there is that way of bringing all the plans in. Oh, you asked about, let's see, ownership. Let's see, how much detail are we seeing, right? Yep, so you got your plan name, you've got your ownership, overall progress, start and end date, and then we can, in a roadmap, see the timeline and even add milestones. Another way, if you didn't want to use this, so getting kind of away from just being able to see everything, let's talk about, well, I don't want to have to pull my plans together to represent the whole unit of work. So here's another way that I did it. I actually created a plan that uses that structure, right? So we have, here's a feature, here's a story, and here are the tasks that make up those stories. Here's a story, and also just to show you, it's pretty easy to, I can select these and say, you know what, I would like to make all of these a subtask. I actually discovered something else today that I honestly didn't know until today. So now if I wanted to relabel all of these as a task, see how this is over here is just a little pane, like a little window pane. I can say, this is a task, and then I'm going to click on this one. This is also a task. Let's say this, I know it doesn't make sense to, but if I wanted to, I could say, this is an issue. So that's also a pretty, like I was always closing this, going here, opening, but it turns out I just need to move. So that I thought that was a nice find. That certainly streamlines the way of defining all of these. Right, so I have my grid view. What we didn't see was goals. So I mentioned if I do have any people that have worked in Scrum before, usually there's something we call the definition of done, right? We need to make sure all of these things have been completed. Like we need to make sure there is technical documentation. We need to make sure it integrates with our other systems. We need to make sure that we do some sort of end user knowledge transfer, right? So then what we can do is, I'm going to go to this board view. I'm looking at this by goal, and I can say, oh, look, yes, technical documentation. Well, this task takes care of that. Systems integration. Don't need to have anything here, but oh, this user guide, that's going to be for knowledge transfer, update documentation, that this as well, this as well. And so I can quickly see that, yes, I'm meeting all of my elements of definition of done. And hey, I didn't do anything here. So maybe I'm going to, I need to add a task. And there I can see, so in this case, I created buckets to be more about the flow of the work. I then have this to manage work in sprints. And then you see we can group by other things, right? If I wanted to see, what has been assigned, oh, look, I haven't, nothing's assigned. Well, let's get these things assigned to some people. Progress. Nothing's been started. We better, resolve that. So certainly different ways if anything needs to be prioritized as far as, the urgency. Any questions so far just about the planner interface itself? Okay, so as I mentioned, my guidance is that if you're going to work together as a team, the first thing you would do is you would come into Teams and create your team. And then from there, you would go in and elect to add an app, pick planner, and then, go ahead and create a plan or pull in an existing plan. The only trick with the existing plan is you just need to make sure your membership is set correctly, but that's a whole nother conversation. But what I wanted to show you is those 3 plans I just showed you, I've already added to this team, right? And you'll notice this, because I'm here now, I have the option to start having conversations. I can have a conversation about any task. So let's say, oh, hey, you know what, there's a problem with this. And what I'm going to do is down here in task conversations, I might say, I am unable to work on this issue unless users are I'm not a developer, so my example is probably pretty silly. So anyway, so I've put a comment here. So now, as someone that's watching this work, right, if I was a product owner, or let's say, someone in the Scrum team, like what's going on with this, I can view the conversation here, or you'll see that things are now starting to show up in this posts area. So here, I'm unable to work on this issue. What's nice about this now that we're in Teams is if I have other fellow team members, now I didn't build out the membership of this team, but if this was something where I was like, okay, you know what, Aaron, I need you to go and take care of this. We can start to mention people to make sure that they're aware. In addition to, certainly we could assign them the task. So that's a nice feature. And also, if I do respond here, response from the post, right? So again, everyone in the team kind of has a pretty clear understanding of what is going on in the way of this task and this task and this task. But if I am someone here looking at this task, I'm going to see, right, we have multiple ways of seeing the same things, right? So I responded from the post, but I can see that from within the context of this view as well.
Hey, Allison,
Yes.
there's a question in the chat. Would everyone in the Teams channel need to have the same planner license to access items?
Excellent question, and the answer is no. So usually what we see is, team leaders or project leaders, they will have that additional planner licensing so that they can come in and create the premium plan and set all of this up. As far as the people assigned the work, they only need their Microsoft 365 work account to be able to come in here and see either the grid view of the tasks, the board view of the tasks, and what they will be able to edit when they come in includes, they can say how far out, like what is the percent of the task that's been completed. And they can also either, I believe, add a note, and participate in the task conversation. The rest is up for the PM or the team leader, whomever that person is, to fill in all the other details. And then what's really nice about this, the whole thing we mentioned about agile teams is often, cross-functional teams are key, right? You need everyone able to do a little bit of stuff. So chances are people are going to be pulled into many projects. And so one benefit of Planner, if you are not familiar with Planner, is the My Day and My Tasks. My tasks in an enterprise Microsoft 365 tenant will let me see all the tasks I've been assigned across all plans, right? So you're seeing I've got, right now I'm looking at this in a board view where the work is assigned to me and it's grouped by plan. So if I scroll over, eventually I should probably see some of these. I do a lot of demos, you can see. So we can see that. And what's nice is if you are doing, part of a daily scrum or part of, if you call it a daily stand-up, and it's decided, okay, you need to focus on, this today, we can come in here, and even if there's no due date for today, but I really need to give this some thought today, I can go ahead and say, add this to my day. And I'm also going to be working on this, add this to my day, just to help me, start to kind of focus what I'm going to do when I'm someone that is, responsible for work across many teams. The other thing I just wanted to make sure I featured when we're talking about working in the context of teams, I mentioned it before, having all of our assets in one place. So I could start to bring in documents from here, right? Let's just pretend this was a document. So I would bring it in here, and then maybe if it is specific to me completing a particular task or for whomever to complete that task, again, I can come in here. Let me just make this bigger and over here, add an attachment. We'll have choices. So I could bring something in from my computer, and that will automatically add it to the resources that my entire team has access to. I could link to a URL. So if there's somewhere else where there's information that's of value regarding this task, we can do that. Or I can pick from the team files and create that, relationship between the two. And now when I look at that task, I can see, not only is there maybe a conversation, but also one of the team files, is relevant to getting this work done. Any other questions about what they're seeing here? Okay, I'm just going to make sure I've highlighted. So I wanted you to be sure that if you are a Scrum team, that you knew one of the built-in views is that sprint view. I wanted to make sure that you were aware of the ability to align your work to goals. And one suggestion I had was doing that to help you make sure the work you're doing is meeting all of your requirements as far as what does it mean to be done the work, right? Definition of done. I wanted to make sure you realize that we can use buckets in many different ways. So buckets can be to manage or monitor the flow of work. And that's, when we talked about labels, right? So I know some organizations, I'm just dragging stuff all around, will create a bucket called, blocked. My only problem with that is that if I have a bucket for blocked and then I move something to blocked, well, at what point was it blocked? Was it blocked when we were trying to release? Was it blocked as part of the review? Was it blocked even getting out of the backlog? So in that case, what I like to do is use labels. Usually I'm going to come down here and let me make sure that I'm going to try and give it it's not letting me edit. I should be able to rename that. I did it earlier without an issue, but I would label that. Let me try it this way. Let's just do this. There we go. There's my edit. So I'm going to call this instead blocked. And now, regardless of where that task is in the flow of things, I would be able to see it's stuck here. And then we could have a conversation as to why. We could assign it to someone to please, help me fix this problem. So anyway, so buckets, value streams, flow of work, however it makes sense, given the way that you work. We talked about labels, and then we also talked about conversations and also grouping all of our assets together. Okay, so I'm going to resume my slideshow. So, I mentioned that, you don't just have to be a technical team, a development team to consider using Planner in this visual way for managing your work in an agile fashion, right? I've actually worked with marketing companies that use that framework. But in the event you do have development teams, like I said, a lot of them, just this week, I've heard of teams using Jira for development, and then, the business and the operational teams, they're going to use Planner. But the problem is usually the higher ups, they want to be able to just surface insight across the enterprise portfolio of projects. Like what valued work are we doing to, service our customers? And so Marquee 360 has a solution that we call PPM 360, and other apps that again help maximize your investment in this Microsoft 365 suite. So it's integrating with Teams, it's integrating with Planner, and then it uses this Power Platform to create this whole additional interface and automations. And it is also possible for us to integrate with tools like ADO and Jira, accounting systems, what have you. And the way that you can integrate Planner with those tools is, again, using that Power Platform, building what are called flows using Power Automate. Some just very high level, simple suggestions are like, hey, if someone creates a new task in Planner, have that become an issue in Jira. Or, hey, we have a Jira status change, go and update Planner with that information, right? And so an example might be, oh, your marketing department is creating tasks. They create something called Launch Microsite. We need that to get to the developer. So maybe we add a custom field, and when that custom field is set to development, it kicks off something and then performs some actions in Jira. With our PPM 360 project, again, often companies are using that because there's an entire report pack in there. And usually people are, the higher ups are wanting to just get an idea of how many projects are we doing? How allocated, over or under allocated are our resources? But again, when those teams are getting their work done using Jira, right? It's not so much about how they're managing the work, but it's just, we just want some insight. So what we've seen some companies do is if there are epics being tracked, we'll map that to a project plan. We'll then have features come in as planned tasks. And then we might have stories come in as a subtask, and often the integration stops there because they don't need the nitty gritty. They're more interested in kind of the status at like these kind of almost like milestone levels. So don't think just because, you don't need to disrupt the way your organization is working. If you've already adopted ADO, Jira, some other tool, we do have ways to integrate. But if you haven't started, you haven't made an investment and you were thinking about how can we work in a more agile fashion, you can use Planner, right, to embrace that agile way of working by having those boards and those other feature sets to boost transparency and team collaboration. And then again, we can integrate that for scale. So either it's Planner with PPM 360, or it could be Planner, Jira, ADO, and PPM 360 just to get that unified portfolio view. So that is my script, or at least the things I wanted to talk to. So we have 15 minutes. Is there anything else anyone would like to see in the context of Planner? I see there might have been an ask. Let's see. Can we assign multiple resources? Yes. So let me go ahead and I'll build one of these teams out just a little bit more. So let me get into a plan here. All right. So I am in a plan. Am I in a plan? I am in a plan. All right. And up here, you will be able to see that my plan is assigned to a team. So let's go ahead. I'm going to start adding some people. So right now I only have myself. Who's in this? I'm going to pick on Aaron. So I'm going to give Aaron the blocked task. And when I do, I'm probably going to be told that Erin's not a member of this team yet. So am I just putting her name on this for my own personal context, or does Erin need to be aware of this and get the task assignment and be able to see what's going on and be part of our collaborative team? I'm going to say yes. She's part of a collaborative team. She needs to see this work. She needs to do this work. She needs to help us out. I'm also going to, I'm going to add Charlene as well. Same thing. Okay. So now I've got a couple people in my team. And when it comes to updating the technical documentation, let's say we all need to, play a part in that. So I'm going to assign me, I'm going to assign Aaron, and I'm also going to assign Charlene. So there, I've assigned 3 of us. If I want, I can put some, so let's say we're going to start on that next week, needs to be done by Friday. And let's say it's expected to take 30 hours to get that done. Okay. So I've just put some context around that. So there's another view in here. I didn't really go through a lot of these. So first of all, I can see how is work distributed across the team and the way it's presented under them. Maybe it's more I want to see, how is everyone doing it? Well, no one started anything. That's a problem. Or maybe I want to see, who has tasks, who's got blocked work, things of that nature. The other view I have is the assignments view. And by default, this will be by resource. So it's kind of another way of looking at that distribution of work across the team. And you'll see that I can navigate that by date. But the view that is good when you have people assigned multiple people on a single task is the assignments view grouped by task. And so you can see that what the system did was it took that task and kind of broke it up pretty evenly across us. but actually, you know what? I'm not responsible for doing anything until towards the end. So I can, not 20 hours, so I can give myself, and then maybe here, this is where I'm going to be putting some time. And then maybe, here we're going to update this. And it's so funny. I'm not best at math, so it looks like I need to, I know at Charlene, she's not going to, at the start, we're going to bring her into the discussion a little later, right? So I can actually granularly distribute that work if I want to. Let's see. Is there a way? All right, let me just quickly, just because someone asked about so there's that as far as assigning multiple people to a task. I'm just going to go in the order that these were received. Is there a way to see which tasks are at risk? So when we're looking like define what you mean by at risk. But one of the filters is you'll see, right? If risk is based on delivery, right? Is it late? We can do that. If you're tracking a risk and it's not part of any of these built-in fields, you always have the ability to add a custom column. So maybe you want to create a field called risk. And it could be just a yes, no, and then you're, filling in the details as to why. So that would be one way of perhaps managing that, or using labels, right? You saw that I was using the label blocked. So if you use labels for risks, you could then filter based on, that particular label. So hopefully that is a sufficient answer just in the context of the time we have. Is there a way to link flagged emails in the task with planner, super planner? Wait, is there a way to link flagged emails to, yes. So maybe you saw when I was looking at my tasks, one of the ones is flagged emails. I'm notorious for just flagging emails and not circling back. But yes, so if you're in Outlook and you're flagging emails, you will see them in your planner, My Tasks. Continuing down the list, can you assign individual contributors to checklist items? No, you cannot. So in that case, so if anyone's missing like, oh, checklist, so what I don't think I called it out. If I were to open this task, let's make it a little bigger. Down here we had, in order to complete this task, what do we need to make sure is complete? Right, but we cannot assign those to individuals. So if you want to work in that context, what you might do is you would create a summary task and then create your 3 subtasks and then assign those to one or more individuals. Regards to shared resources, especially if multiple PMs are using the same resource for different projects, can you allocate and track capacity? So you cannot in the context of just Planner, but in the context of our that PPM 360 tool I mentioned. So again, this is a Power Platform solution that Marquee 360 does offer and deploy and integrate. Part of that is a report pack. And so with PPM 360, we would be surfacing all of the plans that the PMs are managing in Planner. And then actually a few of those reports are dedicated to resource. And we have one called resource availability, which would then, has this heat map and this way of seeing how work is distributed among people. But that's not native Planner, but we do have that as part of our solution. Someone had to leave, so sorry they had to go. Mark, if someone is allocated over the expected hours, does it highlight that? Right. So again, the only place you would see that, although I failed to mention, so I jumped right into PPM 360, but this may be more than you need, right? Maybe you just want the insight, like you don't need for people to necessarily build out. When we come in here, you'll see like it's project charters, it's risks, it's issues. Usually when we are working on a agile team, these are not things we do, right? We don't typically build a project charter. So we actually have that a version of this Power Pack, report pack, I'm sorry, that will work directly against Planner without the PPM 360 solution. I forgot to add that to my slide, so I'm glad you asked that question. All right, so I think I got through the questions. Oh, let's see. Nope, one more. How can you move issues between sprints or buckets in one bulk instead of one by one? Good question. So Microsoft is in the process of adding bulk edit capability in their basic plans. In their premium plans, though, I did have some luck where if I change this to, let's just say, develop, I, hmm, I know I can select multiple tasks and do a couple of things, right? I could either make them all subtasks, I can copy them, I could delete all of them, I could add a dependency to all of these, I could remove a dependencies. I think the ability to copy paste, unfortunately, was more like if I wanted to copy these and then paste them here. So I can do that. However, let's go to the board view because I learn things, new things every day. Let's see. Yeah, no, I cannot. Unfortunately, it does not look. I'll circle back on that, but unfortunately, right now it does look like we would have to drag and drop one to one by one, I mean. Uh, let's see, setting resource schedules. Okay, so in our plan details, there are some that we do have the ability to set a default work week on a plan by plan basis. So if for some reason, hey, we only have the team's only able to work on this Monday through Wednesday and the rest of the week they're not, we have that. The other option is it is possible to, in the Power platform, define a work calendar. And then even for the individuals themselves, put in what their normal working hours are. And I believe, let's see. So I think behind the scenes, because we have that connected, my working hours are only 4 hours a day. So let's see if this works. So if I go in here and I say, this is a task that's going to start on the 27th and is going to end on the 28th. And I'm going to go ahead and assign Allison. Okay, so in this case, so I must be 8 hours behind the scenes. It realized, oh, for Allison to do a 2-day task, that's going to take her 16 hours. If behind the scenes, my working hours were 4 hours because part of the time on a service desk and then the other part of the time I'm doing project work, it would have set this to 8 hours. And then the PM would realize, oh, well, this is a task that's supposed to take longer than that. So I should probably, increase the duration of the task. So it is possible to fine tune that a bit. Export a plan and send to someone else outside the organization. Yes, maybe you saw when I went to here, I do have the ability to export it. It will be as Excel. but that is a way that you could get it out and then sent to someone else.